What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we're coming down from our ayahuasca trip as we talk about Noah Baumbach's While We're Young.
A middle-aged couple's career and marriage are overturned when a disarming young couple enters their lives. Ben, how you doing, man? How's life treating you? Welcome to another week on the pod. We've surpassed 150 episodes.
That's crazy to me. I can't believe we did that. This is an interesting episode for me, as we'll get into. I feel like I related more to the protagonist than I ever have in a movie, for better and worse. So yeah, I'm doing all right. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm here talking about a Noah Baumbach movie, which I feel like is a very good thing. A Baumbach movie that features Ben Stiller and Adam Driver. I feel like we're getting a little twofer in this movie, which is really, really cool. So we're going to talk about While We Were Young. This movie came out in 2014, so we're doing a little bit of A24 catalog digging here.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer. Oh, good call. Yeah, 10-year anniversary. I don't know how much longer we're going to be allowed to kind of like go back in the catalog, because I feel like A24's got some big movies coming up. But maybe I'm just telling myself that like Maxine will be a new movie for 3 months.
I mean, fingers crossed. But also, they just randomly throw movies out occasionally. It's like, oh, by the way, this is coming out in a week. Like, okay, great.
I think Tuesday is currently screening in New York and LA, and might be getting a little bit wider release in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
I don't know. That's the new Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think it's a talking parrot movie. So I don't really know. Literal? The parrot like literally talks. That's
interesting.
You might want to clue in, because you're probably gonna have to watch it.
I guess so. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm on like the wiki for A24 films. They have 8 movies that have dates for the rest of the year.
Oh, hit me. What do we got?
Janet Planet, June 21st. Maxine, July 5th. Sing Sing, July 12th. A week later.
Ooh.
The Front Room, September 6th.
What is that movie?
Man, September 20th.
Have you even heard of that? Front Room?
No, but it's from the Eggers brothers. I'm assuming one of them is Robert. So I don't know how I feel about this.
So you're already off.
That's his name, right? Is it Robert or Roger? I don't know. Yeah. The
you
witch
don't even
dude.
care enough to know.
I don't even know. We Live in Time, October 11th. Heretic, November 15th. And Baby Girl is coming out on December 20th. So yeah, I don't know. We got some movies coming out.
We Live in Time, the romantic drama featuring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. That's an A24 property?
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
I mean, that's what it says.
Wow.
And the Baby Girl movie is directed by Helena Rain, who also did Bodies.
Let's go.
So that's, their Christmas release. And then it still says like Kyle Mooney's Y2K coming out in the summer.
Well, maybe.
The Smashing Machine is supposed to be in December, but The Rock injured himself. So who knows what that's going to do to filming. Like, there's just so much stuff that might be coming out. It's kind of crazy.
Wow. Well, this is really exciting. I didn't know we were going to be doing a little A24 calendar run through, but that felt really good.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere.
Kind of sick. That is kind of wild, to be honest. Cool. Awesome. Really exciting stuff. Well, today we're digging back. We're going back in time, and we're talking about While We're Young, the movie from 2014, directed by Noah Baumbach. You might famously know him as the director of Marriage Story, Frances Ha, The Squid and the Whale, kind of some big movies. This movie is 97 minutes long. Stars Ben Stiller, Naomi Watts, Adam Driver, and Amanda Seyfried of Mamma Mia fame. You're a big Mamma Mia head, right?
I drafted it, dude. I love that movie. Yeah, Mamma Mia forever.
You can't stand by that, though. That's unfair. You drafted it before you saw it. So you don't have the right to say that in public.
But I saw it before the episode came out, so I think it all balances out. Also, I just want to shout out Charles Grodin, because I love Charles Grodin. It's cool to see him in this movie.
Yeah, super cool to see him in this movie. One piece of housekeeping, the Filipu brothers, Danny and Michael, is that how you say that? I never, ever know.
That sounds wonderful to me. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to run with it. They have officially started filming their next movie called Bring Her Back. It's going to be their follow-up to Talk to Me. They're still on the hook for a sequel to Talk to Me, right?
I think so. Is this it? I don't know. I
I,
can't tell.
I look. I was under the impression that it's talk to me. Because like the
Talk to.
hand
Oh, that's right. It
goes into the
does
two.
yeah.
Didn't we get
I
like a
can't do
teaser
that.
logo for that? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think right after the movie came out, A24 is like, yeah, we're locking him down for a sequel. Don't worry about it. Like, all right, man, you got it.
They're like the
Ready
opportunity
for
too
it.
good to pass up.
Maybe they'll give me
Get done.
one that's shaped like a 2 next.
That'd be sick. You have to show up to the Talk to Me sequel with that, like just attached
Oh,
to you,
it's gonna be ripping it the whole time.
ripping it from the hand.
You know you can smoke out of this, right?
I trust me. I know. I
Yeah.
want one. I
Yeah.
want one. One of my biggest missed opportunities in life. Holy cow. Okay, so bring her back. We don't really know a lot about it. They tweeted a picture of their script that said day one begins, wish us luck, and it just says please don't fuck this up like 8 times, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah. Starring Sally Hawkins from Shape of Water. Probably what most people know her from. So yeah, I don't know.
That's all we got.
I'm here for it.
Wow.
Let's see it. That's all I know about it. It's very little.
Okay. Got to lock it down. These guys, this is real deal stuff. Yeah, I'm excited. Always A24 horror is always going to reign supreme.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about While We're Young. A movie that I had not seen before that I put on the schedule because I had wanted to check this movie out for quite some time, and I figured why not now? But you have seen this before, so this was a rewatch for you.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen this a few times. I really, really enjoy this movie, and I was glad to see it on the schedule to rewatch it for sure.
Oh, I'm glad I could do you a service.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Give me your thoughts on this movie.
I think this is a really well done movie. I like this movie quite a bit. I think Ben Stiller's hilarious in this. Him and Naomi Watts, I love their chemistry. I mean, the chemistry between Adam Driver and Amanda Seyfried is pretty great as well, but obviously like doing a different thing. As I watched this, when this came out, I was 30 and I was like, oh man, that's crazy. I can't relate to this stuff. And now I watch it and I was like, oh damn, like I'm almost as old as Ben Stiller is in this movie. Like this is getting really close to home right now, as a childless 40-year-old who's just like surrounded by people with kids. It's like sometimes that's all that
I'm
you
catching
can,
strays. Just trying to,
not
just
a
trying to have
bad
kids.
thing. No, not a bad thing at all. But I mean, that's just like people ask you like, oh, when are you having kids? That kind of a thing. Like that's what I mean by that. It's just like, not all of us have them, and that's totally fine. But this movie just really, again, like the older I get, the more it hits close to home. And it's just like, man, I hope I'm not acting like I'm 21 going to street beach parties or whatever. Like I don't think I'm doing that. I don't think I'm trying to dress like all the other 20-year-olds. Like I don't relate to that aspect of it. But yeah, there's something about turning 40 or turning any like particular decade. Sometimes it just gives you some self-reflection as a man approaching 30. I'm sure you relate. So yeah, I don't know. But all that aside, I think it's a really well done movie. I love the whole cast. I mean, seeing Adam Horowitz, Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys in here I thought he was great. I think he's so good in this movie. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I feel like it's kind of, for me anyways, it was very thought provoking, and it did a good job of capturing what I feel is like the generation of today of like the 20-year-olds that just kind of like, let's just live our life and do whatever we want to do. If we want to make ice cream, let's make ice cream. And if we want to get married, let's just get married. Like we can change this later. It's just very go with the flow, as opposed to like people of like an older generation where everything is so kind of static and just like, if we do this one thing, we're stuck in it and that's it. And I feel like younger people are just kind of like, I don't know, if I don't like it, we'll just change it. And that kind of felt like that was their vibe. So I was super happy to watch this again. What was it like for your first watch?
I think I agree with you on some things. I'm really kind of conflicted on this movie, and I really didn't think that I would be. Like I thought that I would go into this movie and be like, oh boy, this is so like, I love this. This is so me. Like it really is. The narrative is really coded toward me of like, just turned 30, like going on like, okay, like 40's the next big decade. And although I do have 2 kids, like I can relate to both of the couples. Like I can relate to Josh and Cornelia
Yeah.
because at some point in time, my wife and I, like the kids will not live with us anymore. And we will, in fact, be like mid 40s with no kids around. And like that will be our life. So like I can see ourselves in that. But also like having just turned 30, I still feel like I'm 20 and I still feel like I should be doing the things that Jamie and Darby are doing. And like, so I'm really kind of caught in this like tether between both of the couples. And so I think the things that really worked for me in the movie were like the true Noah Baumbach isms of the film. Of like, we get so many very poignant lines, so many like powerful moments, just like sitting with Ben Stiller or sitting with Amanda Seyfried, and like plainly stating like, hey, that we know that this movie is about trying to discover your youth when you're older, but we're just going to say that anyway. And like, I think Baumbach does that well. Like Frances Ha is the same way. Like Marriage Story is the same way. Like that's why the movie works, is because we follow that frame.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the flip side, this movie had so much more like tension filled plot than I was ever remotely ready to receive. Like it goes down the path of like a real interesting self-discovery for Ben Stiller's character, a real kind of tangent for him. It goes off on like a tangent of like, what does it take to like do what you want to do in life and like follow your dreams? It also like kind of follows this narrative of, I don't know, like kind of like this weird gotcha narrative of like, oh, the point of the movie is to like solve that Jamie is like not an ethical filmmaker. And it's like, I don't know if that really worked for me kind of at all. Like, I don't know. So I kind of wanted to use this platform to like talk through that a little bit. Does that work for you? Because I feel like it's really a movie of two movies. Like I feel like two things are stitched together here and we navigate between them. And I don't know if for me personally, they ever really gel.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it works for me. And again, it may just be like relating to the characters as someone who like works in film stuff on a day-to-day basis. Like I saw the Ben Stiller character and just kind of like the frustration of a younger person coming up and achieving this success that you're just like, wait, like, hold on. Like I've been trying to do this forever. And now this person just came in and maybe they didn't do it in the most ethical way, but also maybe that's just like kind of changed on how people view that, it's just like, that's not the point of the story. Like he's focusing on the wrong thing, like not the big picture, but just like this very specific detail. So overall, I felt like it worked together because it just showed how differently the generations view things. But I see your point for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I kept finding myself like falling in love with the movie and then like falling out of love with the movie, which I know saying out loud is like very like, Noah Baumbach got me. That's the point of the movie. Like I get it. Like that is literally what our characters are going through and like what they're trying to discover for themselves. It strikes me as a movie that I personally will really benefit from a rewatch on, because like I know what our path is. I know where we're headed. I know our big talking points, and I know like that this kind of ethical journey with Josh and Jamie is like the core of what we're doing and like how we understand the things that we pursue, whether that be art, love, whatever it is. So knowing that, I think I would be a bit more prepared and like on the side of the movie if I were to rewatch it. But I think like once the credits rolled, I was like, oh man, like I think that was just like not. Here's the thing, I think it was very Frances Ha coded for like 15 minutes. And then I was like, ooh, I like this. This is just a new Frances Ha. And then it was not. And then I was like, ooh, that was not a new Frances Ha. So I think
that's
like
not what I wanted. Yeah.
That's literally where I'm at. Where I was just like, oh, you had my attention for like 15 or 20 minutes. I was really fascinated. And there were things that I liked along the way that just didn't pan out to be the way I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. for sure. Yeah, I see all that kind of stuff. I think it's interesting how I'm curious what it's like on a rewatch for you. I
Yeah.
don't remember what this felt like after the first time I saw it. Again, like I think I saw it when it came out, so I would have been in your shoes, being like 30, having watched this for the first time, and maybe just feeling like you're literally in the middle of our protagonists here because I feel
Yeah.
like they're, people in their mid 40s and people in their mid 20s,
Yeah.
and so you're just
I'm
kind of falling
literally
in
in
the
the
middle.
middle.
It's like, wait, like which one am I? So
Yeah.
I'm curious how it will land for you on a rewatch.
And I think too, like, because I did relate a lot to Ben Stiller's character and what you did say of like how Jamie, like Adam Driver's character of Jamie, comes in and is like successful at what he does, and he gets a few lucky breaks and like ends up basically getting everything that Josh has been working towards
Hmm.
in a very compact amount of time. That like Josh has been working on his movie for 10 years. And like I know that that's part of what we're discovering here and what we're going towards. And so like I identified with Ben Stiller's character of Josh a lot through this process. And
Yeah.
like I totally got that. I also identified with him because like I mentioned, like my wife and I will eventually like just not have kids with us. They
Yeah.
will be off living their own lives. And so like we're kind of on the opposite table of them where like they don't have kids. We will have had kids, but like I would love to live in New York in my mid 40s. And so like seeing this, and I think obviously that's part of why I'm drawn to Francis Ha and like why Baumbach is always so
Mhm.
interesting to me because like he's so locally New York where he just like is throwing in, like places and street names and street numbers and all this kind of stuff in his projects where it's like if you live in New York, and if you don't, you probably don't. And like
Yeah.
that's okay. Like that's what we accept. And so to see them living in New York in their mid 40s with like, oh, we don't have any, like, we just have jobs and we can like go do stuff. I was like, oh shit, like that would be really fun. I would love to do that someday. And so like I did identify in different portions of it. Speaking of Francis Ha, is Adam Driver just playing Lev from Francis Ha here? Because I'm pretty sure he is. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
I mean, I'm gonna have to defer to you on this. It's been a while since I've seen Francis Ha, but I'll follow whatever you say.
It is, I will say definitively, it's the same guy. It's the same person because even down to the fact where, excuse me, there is a moment in While We're Young that Jamie goes to get on a bike and Darby follows him and Darby is like, Jamie's always on the move. He's the master of transportation. And it's like, that's literally what they say about Lev in Francis Ha. Like, oh, transportation is his thing as he gets
Yeah.
ready to go ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's literally the same thing. So I think it's interesting because Francis Ha comes out in 2012, While We're Young comes out in 2014. The next movie that Baumbach does, except for a TV movie in the middle, but I'm not counting that.
Yeah. I can totally see that. I'm with you.
Super interesting. I wanted to give a shout out to Maria Dizia. This actress that's in this movie. She's in a movie coming out of Sundance and out of Seattle International Film Festival. I'm not sure if it has a distributor yet called We Strangers. I recommend people check it out when it comes out. It's pretty good, like psychological thriller that
Okay.
is that's coming out of festivals. She's also in Funny Pages. She's in a couple of other things, but I saw her in this movie and I was like, oh, you're in this, and she is a total like that guy to me. We're just like,
Nice.
oh, this is gonna be a fine movie, So I just want to give a shout out to that. Who had the better life, Cornelia and Josh or Jamie and Darby?
I mean, I lean towards Cornelia and Josh mainly because I feel like they had a respect for each other that maybe Jamie and Darby don't have. Like I think Jamie and Darby respect each other's like freedom and independence, but it didn't feel like they had a lot of respect for each other. And so for that, I kind of lean more towards Cornelia and Josh, but there's definitely like pros and cons to both without a doubt. Like
Yeah.
I see both sides of it. Like, yeah, I don't know. And then that's just speaking of them as a relationship. Like we talked about Josh, this documentary taking 10 years. Like he's just a perfectionist and there's no way to ever make the perfect movie or the perfect documentary. Whereas Jamie's just like, I'm just going to make it. And then whatever it is, and then I'll move on to the next thing. It's like,
Right.
maybe you need a little balance of both. And hopefully that's what he figured out. But if I'm looking at the two and in their relationships, I'd kind of lean, maybe it's because of my age, but I lean Josh and Cornelia.
Yeah, no, I could not have said it better. I think you really, really made a good point about their respect for each other. I do think Josh and Cornelia have something that is so like remarkably lived in, and I think they're able to get that across the screen in comparison to Jamie and Darby that do feel very like infantilized and kind of like of their youth, obviously.
Yeah.
So like shout out to Baumbach for being able to put that across on the screen, and like even in the way they hold their hands and the way that they talk to one another as they walk down the street, like they've been together. They know how life works, and they know that the other person knows how life works with each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to discuss. Let me ask you a question. So Ben Stiller's character makes a documentary that, upon showing it to his father-in-law, is 7.5 hours long.
Yeah.
If Ben Stiller were to come up to you and be like, "Hey man, I got a documentary I've been working on for like 10 years. It's 7.5 hours long. Can you just like sit and like let me know what you think?" Would you do it?
Sign me up. Give me a Red Bull and some popcorn, and let's make it happen.
You'd say let it rip, huh?
Yeah, I'll give you all the notes you want, man. I would love to do that. Yeah, I'd be all about it. That's my favorite shit. Like, is taking something that's too long and like trimming the fat and figuring out like how do we get this to what it needs to be. So that's like a dream. I love it.
I just want to toss you a softball question. I knew you'd gobble that up.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
I don't know if I could do it, to be honest. Even if Ben Stiller, I would be like, oh man, I'd like, do you want to go grab a beer instead? Like maybe we go do something else.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have the stamina. Like 7.5 hours.
It's a lot.
That's not for me. Okay, I have 2 more questions and then we'll do true cinema. Would you do ayahuasca? Have you done ayahuasca? I guess would be a more important question.
I think now is the time to tell our listeners that once we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, you and I will be doing ayahuasca together.
Yeah,
so
it'll be a live ayahuasca pod.
A live ayahuasca pod. And you can pick the movie that we reviewed. That's when I'll do Babylon.
What?
On our ayahuasca trip.
Say, is it Babylon?
That's what it'll be. That's when I will finally watch Babylon. Is when we're on
I don't
our
think that
ayahuasca
is. Trip. I don't think that's approved by like doctors, quite honestly. I think that would get vetoed very quickly.
Probably
by medical professionals.
No, I've never done ayahuasca, but having seen some, TV shows and stuff where they do, like it looks awful and interesting at the same time.
Yeah. I think it looks awful and interesting, and I don't think I would ever do that. I just like can't. I think I'm personally afraid of like where it might take me. Like, I don't know deep down if I want to discover what ayahuasca unlocks on me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think I'm very anti the movie. I know it starts with like open the door, kind of mantra. I don't think I want to open the door. I think I'm totally like content with where I'm at.
Door. Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
I'm good with the door closed, and no ayahuasca opening that door.
Nice.
Now, if you maybe introduce some other substances, maybe we start to crack that door open, but it's not ayahuasca. I can tell you that. Okay. Very end of the movie, we get to the airport, and they're getting ready to fly to adopt a child. Am I reading this correctly?
Yeah.
And then
Haiti.
Yes, and then they see a kid across from them playing on an iPhone, sending messages and pretending to call somebody. And I read it as like, oh, maybe we're making a mistake. Like maybe we don't want a kid.
Dude.
Is that did I read that right? Do they go adopt the kid?
I don't know. I think that's why it's left up to us because, man, that was a great ending for sure. There's aspects of like, I mean, do you remember life before you had a kid? It's just like Saturdays could start at 11 o'clock if you wanted. You know what I mean? It's just like, whoever. But now it's just like kids are up, you're up. That's just kind of how it goes now. So
thanks.
No, I'm asking. You know what I mean? Like, you remember what it was like before? It was just like, yeah. And you're gonna have that in like 5 years. You're gonna be able to do that again. But there's this time where it's just like, once a kid's up, you're up, and that's all there is to it. Like my girlfriend's brother and sister-in-law just had a baby, and it's just like,
Mm.
You're up every 2 hours. Like kid needs to eat, kid needs to do whatever. Like that's your
It's like
thing.
the 2 a.m. feeding, the 5 a.m. feeding might come through,
Yeah.
might wake you up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think as the older you get, it's just like, damn, do I really want to interrupt this stuff? But I don't know. I'm curious. What do you think they did?
Yeah, I think they backed out for sure. I
Yeah.
think they were like, you know what? I kind of like our life and I kind of enjoy what we were doing. And I think
Yeah.
that is kind of part of this like little bit of like magic dust over the movie is like they they tried like they discovered more of themselves and
Hmm.
they unlocked like especially Josh like unlocked like hey I'm just like afraid. I'm afraid to put my work out there. I'm afraid that like more people are going to see it and it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to represent what I want and all these things, but like
Yeah.
maybe that's the risk I have to take. And like sometimes unlocking that about yourself is like, that's good. Like you don't need
Hmm.
to be like, and let's have a kid and let's travel to, you know, a third world country and let's do this crazy stuff. Like sometimes you just need to be like, okay, cool. I just like know myself better than I did a week ago. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it even comes up in the movie when, I mean, it's when they're talking to Kent and they screw up the line and Ben Stiller corrects him. He's like, life is what happens in between making plans. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what we saw with Cornelia and Josh. And it's just like they lived this life for a while they were worried about what kind of plans they needed to make. And then, like you said, it's like a week later and they're just kind of different people. But it's like, that's cool. You can try new things. You can, maybe you want to take a hip hop class, go for it. You know, like you could do that kind of shit. Like,
Yeah.
tear it up. But the dancing was something else, man.
I I'm gonna divert for a quick second. I want to tell you a story because this whole like kids thing is really funny to me because last night, literally last night, my children would not stop waking up in the middle of the night to call me into their room for quite honestly the most mundane things of hey I'm thirsty, can you grab my water bottle that's 6 inches away from my face, or hey like can you scratch my back so I can go back to bed, and so much so that I got so tired of getting out of my bed and walking down the stairs of my loft into their room that I just pulled out the mattress on the ground and I just slept on the ground of their floor all night long because I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like you guys are killing me. You're literally
Yeah.
draining my energy and my soul and my body right now. And I love my kids dearly, but this movie gets that so right where like they are their friends, Cornelia and Josh's friends have a baby and
Mhm.
he just says like, yeah, I might tear through here at 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. and the feedings and like this is what it is.
Yeah.
Can you I want to put a pin in that scene because I want to come back to that scene. There's
Okay.
something that I'd like to discuss about that. But let's do true cinema and start walking through this movie. First on the list here, I have dinner with Josh, Cornelia, Jamie, and Darby at the Chinese restaurant. I have a very important continuity question about this.
Yeah.
So Jamie and Darby, Adam Driver and Amanda Seyfried, they meet Josh after he teaches a class. And Josh says, "Oh, I was going to meet my wife around the corner at this Chinese restaurant for lunch." And Jamie says, "Oh my gosh, we're going to the same restaurant." The next scene, of course, they're at the restaurant together.
Yeah.
And then the conversation leads to Josh and Cornelia saying, "Oh, it's past our bedtime. We normally go to bed at 11." Were they there since lunch or did Baumbach just like try to slide like, "Oh, we actually meant dinner."
Oh, I didn't even pick out that they said lunch. I just assumed it was like a
I'm
night class or something.
I'm pretty sure. I feel like I wouldn't point this out unless I distinctly heard lunch.
Yeah, I believe you. I just like I missed it. He got one by me. I assumed it was a night class, and it all just made sense to me. But yeah, if they said lunch, then that's something else.
I could be making a complete fool of myself right now.
No, never.
I would.
Not you.
I
Not Ethan Simi.
couldn't be me. Couldn't be me.
No.
So their dinner, and this is kind of where at least Josh kind of like starts to become infatuated with Jamie
Yeah.
and Darby. And I will say, like when Jamie they were saying he was saying something to like Darby, and then like goes to apologize and just like grabs her boob, which I was like, that's that's hilarious. And that's
Mhm.
also like, oh, you're 24. That's so cute.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then afterwards too, when Josh and Cornelia are at home, and Josh's like, "Oh, they're great. They're so nice. They ask so many questions." And Cornelia's like, "They didn't ask me any questions." Like it was just kind of telling for sure. And
Yeah.
Josh is totally misses out on it. He's so, I don't know, in love with these people that are asking him all these questions. So kind of cool to see their different takes on them immediately.
I got real Schenectady, New York vibes from this movie.
Oh, okay.
Like later on in the film when Josh kind of comes back to a party going on at like Jamie and Darby's house,
Hmm.
and when Jamie like premieres his film, and like his wife is smoking, and like people are there that like he didn't expect to be there, and then his wife is like, hey, not everything is a conspiracy theory against you, blah blah blah. Like I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like this is very very like different from what
Yeah.
Baumbach is doing. I don't know if you felt the same way like during that scene. I know I skipped over that over a bunch of stuff we'll come back to, but I was like, oh, are we like taking that turn?
Yeah, it did. It felt that way. I think he even doesn't even say like, "Am I in some weird dream or something
Yeah,
like
he
that?" Like,
does.
yeah, it totally felt that way. Just kind of looking around, like, man, everything's just like a little off. Like it's all here, but it's just a little bit off. So I totally see that relation.
Yeah, so weird. It just felt like very Charlie Kaufman coded for, I don't know, like 5 minutes. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, maybe we'll go there. But we didn't. Next on the list, Tipper the roommate and Nico the chicken. Tipper coming
Yeah.
out of nowhere. They unveil Nico the chicken. Would you ever want a chicken in your house?
I mean, I do love an egg for
Are you
breakfast,
are
so
you pro chicken?
sure, man. Why not? I don't know if I want it in the house though. Like that's crazy. That is one aspect of New York that I guess you have to keep in mind. Like you don't have a yard for your chicken. You're just literally keeping it in your loft with you.
Yeah, I guess you don't really have a
Just remember
choice.
that for when you move to New York.
Can't
Yeah.
yeah, would have to keep chicken in cage.
Yeah.
I will make a note of that. I guess you couldn't technically call it a cage, like cage free egg.
No, literally the opposite of that. It is a caged egg. Yes.
It's a bad beat for your morning
Yeah.
eggs. That's
Yeah.
tough. The music class. Now this is where Cornelia goes to basically meets up with her best friend Marina, and they call each
Mm,
other Fox, which I think is hilarious.
yeah.
And Marina has just had a kid and basically invites her to like this children's music class, and Cornelia ends up leaving and basically like kind of freaks out about what's going on there.
Mhm.
Rightfully so. Like I have a kid and I don't even go to those kinds of classes. Like I don't know why you'd ever go without a kid. Even if you love your best friend, Ben, I'm not coming to a music class for you and your kid. No offense.
No, I would not expect that from you at all. But I do like that she just immediately then goes to the hip hop class, and it's just like a same kind of weird
Gotta,
situation, but a
yeah.
different way. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of felt like she needed to overcompensate, and then she like also hated that.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. 100%.
We get a montage to "Hit 'Em Up" by Tupac. This is funny in theory, and it maybe is like funny for the first 15 seconds for me, and then I was like, I get it. Like I got you, Noah. Like I know what we're doing here, and I'm good. That's probably my hot take of the movie.
That's so interesting. This is where I wonder where the age comes in, because I wonder how
Yeah.
close I am to Noah, because this fucking hit for me so hard. Like it's just
Damn.
a top 3 diss track in the history of music, and he's using it in this fucking, like, I don't know, midlife crisis movie. It's like there's no place being here at all, but I loved every second that we got "Hit 'Em Up" in here. It's just like it's one of the best.
Tupac was before my time. So like I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with Tupac. I grew up in a very like a white predominant community. And like I
Mhm.
was not, my parents were not music people. Like I just was never introduced to hip hop, especially like West Coast hip hop, and like
Yeah.
just I never got influenced into it. And so like I don't have a connection to this scene. I was like, yeah, I know the song, like dope song. But I just like it doesn't work for me. We get the ayahuasca ceremony. The Blade Runner love theme plays here.
Yeah.
And this is in addition to like the Rocky 3 poster that Jamie has in his loft. I feel like Noah Baumbach was just like digging deep and was like, yo, let's put some banger movies in this film.
And he did it, man. Like, I think he pulled it off. All those, like, I wanted to pause. I should have to look at all those VHSs that they pull through, you know, when
I
they're watching their
know.
movies. That would have been interesting to go back and look at and see exactly what films were on there. But yeah, I think this was him just like kind of being in his bag. It's like, oh, let's do some cool shit. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, Baumbach has that about him where he has that vibe and he can get that vibe really well. This is kind of where we get the very first, you know, like tension filled moment. Cornelius kisses Jamie and then thinks it's Josh and then is very aware that it's Jamie and then goes to kiss him again.
Yeah.
I read this and I like took this as Cornelia maybe not doing this against Josh's will, but like doing it to prove a point to Josh where it's like, okay, if you're going to explore how you feel, I'm going to explore how I feel. And this is what it is. And even if she claims that she didn't like it or whatever the case may be at the end, she goes in for round 2 and like she tests the waters a little bit. And I think this is a really interesting scene to say the least.
Yeah, because she goes back in and then what does she say? Like, let's never do this again, or let's never talk about this again, something along those lines. But yeah, I also just don't know what your body would be like on ayahuasca, but I think your read is probably right, where it's just kind of like, you know what, we're just all exploring, we're all just meat sacks on this floating rock. Let's just maybe I'll just kiss this guy again and we'll see what happens. So yeah.
We're all floating through the reed fields to the pyramids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Apparently, I'm more intrigued now to do ayahuasca because I'm like, is the pyramids thing real? Like, was Noah Baumbach like, yo, this was my experience, I'm gonna pop it in there?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll respond back once we do it.
Only one way to find out. The Kent interview happens. This is kind of when Jamie starts kicking off his movie and his documentary, interviews Kent. This is where we get one of the most powerful lines, like, why do we stop doing things? Life happens, I guess. I love the line. I just don't like the framework that it's built around. Like, I don't like that this moment turns into this, like, I don't know, this like discovery moment of like, oh man, like he was already there and Darby was already there. And like, holy cow, this is like unethical and stuff. Like, I think it really detracts from like the coming of age ness, quote unquote, of the film. Like, I think it totally juxtaposes the idea of that, like, life happens, I guess, kind of a thing in a not satisfactory way for me.
I see that. I totally get that. I think it also, we kind of got this message earlier, you know, when they were talking about their freedoms and like, oh yeah, we could travel anywhere, anytime, you know, like, well, except the documentary that I'm working on, whatever, you know, it's like, there's always a reason they didn't do something. And that's kind of what this is. It's just like, why do we stop doing things? It's like, well, because you have to work on your documentary or you have to do this or whatever. So it's just like,
yeah,
that's the difference of being in your 20s and being in your 40s, you know, like life happens and you just can't do all the shit you want to do.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's also the case with kids. I unfortunately on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm up at 7 a.m. Tough beat. No matter how much Harry Potter I play on PlayStation the night before, my kids don't care. They
do not.
They will not let me let me rest. Okay. Josh and Cornelia are not invited to the party of Fletcher and Marina. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of also another big blow up moment of like, we're like caught in between our friends and we don't know what we want. Which I thought was quite a funny moment. And I just spent most of the time being like, oh, I'd like to go to that party. They seem like cool people.
And I don't blame him for not inviting them. Like, if you keep inviting people to things and they're just like, oh no, no. At some point, you're just gonna be like, all right, well, then I'm just going to stop inviting them. And then they're like, well, why didn't you invite me? It's like, you never come to anything. Like, why would we keep inviting you? So I don't blame them at all for not inviting them. It totally made sense. But I would love to be at that party.
Yeah, no, they're totally in the right and not inviting them. And yes, I would also love to be at that party. Shit's bad, want to get some goat. I think that's like an all-timer quote of just like, yo, fuck this. Like, I'm out kind of a thing. This comes from Darby after Josh catches Darby making out with like a cab driver outside.
Yeah, who knows who it is.
Which is like shout out this dude for getting to make out with Amanda Seyfried for like 2 seconds on the
Yeah.
screen. Like absolute
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah.
And then Josh and Darby go to a bar, and it's kind of like this really uh visually stated and recognizable like moment from Darby of like, hey, I'm only 25 and like let's kiss, let's go dancing, let's like make
Yeah.
out with other people, let's do stuff. And like Josh kind of lets it take him over, which like I love that for my guy. Like that's to me, that is what he needed in this movie. And that was a more interesting draw for me than all the other like bullshit with Jamie's movie.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think this was like a super interesting side of it. It was fun to see him kind of cut loose and just kind of give into it. You know, it's like he had been talking about this kind of stuff for a long time and now he's finally doing it. So it was fun to see him
Yeah.
like live up that side.
Do you think Ben Stiller is a good dancer?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm trying to think because
It
he's
worries me that you have to think about an answer this much.
well, here's my thought. Like he's a Nepo baby. Like his parents were super popular at Hollywood. So he's been going to like Hollywood parties forever and just feel like he's probably been dancing for a while. He's probably got some moves on lock, you know?
Yeah.
You know, maybe that should have been our other A1 act as Nepo babies because Ben Stiller's got to be up there as one of the best.
He's got to be up there as one of the best.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. You think Ben Stiller's like a good after party hang? I feel like he would be a good 2 a.m. dive bar hang.
Oh, for sure. He's probably got some great stories. Yeah, I think he'd be fantastic. I would ask him about Starsky and Hutch all day. Love that movie.
A movie that you could not pay me enough to watch that film.
It's so
great.
good.
So we'd entertain Ben Stiller on both fronts. This is great. We should go to a bar with him. Argument between Josh and Cornelius in the street. This is kind of when they have the blow up and Josh finally like shows up and is like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't really know like why you're against me and my documentary. And Jamie is like trying to film this whole thing, which
Yeah.
I don't know. It just like didn't work for me. Like kind of whatever. Like whatsoever. But I thought the blow up for them obviously really important for their relationship of like you're saying you want kids, but the time has already passed. And like unfortunately, I think Baumbach does do a good job of hitting that on the head of like shit's tough sometimes. Like you don't have another shot. Like life moves on and time goes on. And so like if the shop is closed for having kids, then the shop is closed. Like there's nothing you can do about that. And I think that point of like how you age, that's very real in this movie. I think it's again like overshadowed, but I think when it works, it works.
Yes, I think this argument works. I think it's an interesting head for them to come to, you know, like to really have this blow up. We get a little fight earlier on, which is kind of funny because we get that moment where he's like, fuck you. She's like, what? He's like, no, not like a real fuck you, like fuck you, like Darby and Jamie say it. You know, it's just like, it's not a real fuck you.
Then he's like, fuck you to the core.
To the core. Yeah, it's like I thought that the other fight was pretty funny too. But I don't know, this scene was kind of funny. I like the Adam Driver just like, you know, leaning around the building, you know, just like trying to film them secretly. I thought that kind of worked, but yeah, I like the scene.
I got two more here. The Lincoln Center exposing Jamie. So this is where basically Cornelia's dad, Ira Mandelstam, is like kind of giving a speech about how he got to where he is. And Josh comes in and basically exposes Jamie and is like, he didn't make this documentary ethically. Like I was tricked. I was duped into this thing and blah, blah, blah. And Ira is basically like, well, I don't know. It seems okay to me. Kind of hard to watch for our guy, Josh.
It's so unsatisfying. He's like, yeah, he got him. Like we got him nailed down. Like we know the whole story behind it. And then everyone's just like, I don't know. It's all right. You know, it's like, wait, so he didn't go to Afghanistan? It's like, no, he did, but just like not that way. He's like, oh, okay, then I don't give a shit. Like it's kind of heartbreaking to watch, I think.
It is tough. And, you know, I think Stiller plays these types of roles very, very, very well because, like, there's a line in here where he says, like, I'm not going to get any satisfaction. All right. Like this is
Yeah.
not going to pan out the way that I want it to. And like he plays that role really, really well. I think like similarly, underrated movie of like Greenberg. I think he's kind of
Oh yeah.
operating in the same gear here. And then at the very end, we get this very intimate moment between Josh and Cornelia. And Josh says, I think it's hard for me to have something great every day and to acknowledge it. This for me is my true cinema moment. This is the moment where it felt the most unapologetically Baumbach, like talking about the things he wanted to talk about, using our characters to do that, and not having any other like fluff around it. This felt like what he wanted to say, and it worked the best for me.
Yeah, there's so much great dialogue here, and this ending scene with them connecting is fantastic. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like one of my favorite lines of dialogue, it might be my moment, is when he says like, "It's like he once saw a sincere person, and he's been in imitating him ever since." And
Mm,
I really enjoy that line because it's like a good way to describe the Adam Driver character. Um, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of great dialogue here, but that makes sense. It's Bombeck, you know.
yeah. Would you ever wear a hat like Adam Driver does?
No, no, I couldn't. No way. My head's way too big,
Just
man. I can barely wear hats in general, but I definitely would not wear that hat.
I mean, look, I'm helping my case. It's literally the same kind of hat that Lev wears in Francis Ha. Just throwing that out
Yeah, it makes
against the wall there.
sense.
Uh,
There.
there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about. This is when Josh goes over to his friend's house. Fletcher
Yeah.
and his wife had just had a kid. Goes over to Fletcher's house to stay the night, and Fletcher is on baby duty and has his kid, and is kind of talking about feeding schedule and like when are you going to go to sleep and all this kind of stuff. And Josh talks to him about like having a kid. Fletcher says something that I think is really interesting. And he says, like, everybody tells you having a kid is the greatest thing. And then when you have a kid, everybody says, don't worry, it gets better. And like having a kid is great, but I'm still the most important person in my life to me.
Mhm.
And like that idea, I have never heard communicated anywhere else in film, in any kind of movies,
Yeah.
which really, really grabbed me because that is exactly the type of thing, like at that age, like you're still the most important person to you. Like, even if you bring in a kid, like, and this is harkened on earlier in the film as well, when Darby and Cornelia are kind of talking about having a kid, like, oh, I just fold the kid into my life. Like I'm going to a restaurant, like they're coming with me, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
I think there's two very distinct schools of thought about having children. And so like that is really interesting to me as a father of young kids. And I would have loved to like live in that idea a lot more than we did. But
Yeah, it was. I love that conversation they had, and even him bringing up like that having a kid didn't change him as much as he hoped it would, you know.
yeah,
And he's like, yeah, and like you said, he's like, I'm still the most important person to me, and it's like, oh yeah, that's like you don't hear that often because it feels wrong to say, you know, but it's
right.
just like it's the truth. And I thought that was a beautiful conversation that they had for sure.
Yeah, so interesting. Okay, we're gonna do an A1 act. We're gonna do Noah Baumbach.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. We've got Kicking and Screaming, The Squid and the Whale, Margot at the Wedding, Greenberg, Francis Ha, While We're Young, Mistress America, De Palma, The Meyerowitz Stories, Marriage Story, and White Noise. Does Baumbach have anything? He's got another one coming up. I believe it's an adult coming of age movie
Mm.
with Clooney. Am I remembering this
Ooh.
correctly?
There is an untitled Noah Baumbach picture.
Who's
Um,
attached?
wow. George Clooney,
Stacked. Yeah, stacked cast. Here we go.
Adam Sandler, and Riley Keough. Speaking of our
Ooh,
A24 queen, yeah, Greta
that's our
Gerwig,
girl.
obviously, Billy Crudup, Laura Dern. This is a great cast. This is gonna be
Kind of
solid.
sounds like Marriage Story, like times two. Just like
Great.
hyped up.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm all about it.
I'm I'm so in. Look, I'm picking Francis Ha. It's like my second favorite movie of all time. I don't know
Nice.
what else to tell you. I feel like I've spoke about it here before on the show. But that movie I will just flip it on all the time. Comfort movie. It is a perfect film.
Yeah, I remember really enjoying Francis Ha quite a bit. I need to revisit it for sure. And just to be clear, like we are doing Noah Baumbach directed movies.
Yes,
He's also written a lot. Obviously, you probably would have picked Madagascar 3 if
of
we were doing
course.
things that he wrote, but we're just doing directed movies. So I'm going to go with Marriage Story.
Mm.
That movie just fucking wrecked me. I cried so much during that movie. I think it's just one of the best performances from Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Like everyone's given great performances in there. I think it's a beautiful movie. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Marriage Story.
Man, Marriage Story. What does it win? One Oscar, but nominated for 5,
Mm,
or nominated for 6, and Laura Dern ends up winning Best Supporting Role.
yeah,
That's kind of a rough showing at the Oscars for Marriage Story. Man.
it's just an honor to be nominated.
Sure. I'm sure everybody felt the same way. A24 ranking for While We're Young.
Mm.
What do you got?
I'm gonna go with B plus 24,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
maybe an A minus, but I'm gonna go. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with the B plus 24.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's super solid. B plus 24. Okay, I'm gonna go with a C 24. I just can't get past the fact that like I wanted to like this movie so much more than I did. And I
Yeah,
feel like I was like so primed to really, really like it. And it just ended up like felt convoluted to me. It just felt like we were taking a lot of detours on shit that I just like didn't care about, which was too
yeah.
bad.
No, I totally get that. I think it's still an overall positive rating. I think it's
Yeah.
still something you
Yes.
could recommend to somebody. So yeah, I like
Still a
it.
positive rating for sure. I think I always want to see movies like this when Ben Stiller is operating like this. I think he
Yeah.
is so good in roles like this, and just it needs to be in more of them. Any final thoughts on While We're Young?
Uh, hit him up. Yeah, top 3 diss track of all time. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, I'm about to go read into some really deep hip hop history and rap history, and start to
Hit him up
learn.
from Tupac, Ether, and the new one from Kendrick. Not Like Us, man. That thing's
Top 3.
a fucking banger. Those are my top
Yeah,
3.
that thing's banger. I will say I'm educated on the Kendrick Drake going on, and
Yeah,
that's some wild shit. It's some wild
wild,
stuff.
so wild.
Some good music coming out of that. Next week on the pod, we're talking about Jerry Lee Lewis, Trouble in Mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know a lot about this movie, dude. Documentary?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, kind of coming up, I believe, around the same time as Elvis, stuff like that. So I'm excited to learn more about him. I love a good documentary. I love a biopic. So I don't know, this should be fun. Great Balls of
Yeah,
Fire.
I'm excited. We're gonna do this, and then we'll do the final 5 episodes of The Curse, so 6 through 10 of The
Yeah,
Curse. And then it sounds like we have a lot of new releases coming up in July and
yeah, we
so
do.
on. So we'll see what our schedule looks like for then. But yeah, I'm excited about what's coming down the pipeline.
It's gonna be good. If I remember correctly, Jerry Lewis married like a 12-year-old or his cousin or something like that. Something weird. I
Oh,
don't
well,
know.
this will be interesting.
Yeah, come back next week and we'll talk about it.
We'll
But
figure out what's true and what's not.
yeah. What are your thoughts on While We're Young? Where does it fall in your Noah Baumbach rankings? Let us know. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. And also, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can see our beautiful faces as we talk about these movies. Appreciate your support very much. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.